Has this ever been you before? This is going to be a good solve. I can feel it. That's actually a pretty easy cross. Alright, this solve. I'm feeling good about this solve. I can hear a resounding yes coming from you, which is why in this video I'm going to teach you guys the art of Cross+1. The name might sound intimidating, but the concept and the actual execution of Cross+1 is actually kind of simple. So without further ado, let's get into this tutorial and man, I lost my train of thought. As the name suggests, Cross+1 basically means that you are planning your cross as well as your first F12 pair inside your pre-inspection time. By using this technique, it will help give you a jump start to every single solve, as you don't have to waste time looking for your first F12 pair after you finish your cross, and it will help you break through into new barriers such as sub 12, sub 10, and it is absolutely essential for sub 10 and beyond. Okie dokie, so kicking this tutorial off, we're gonna split up these steps of Cross+1 into two different steps, which are Cross+1. Yeah, very original, I know. You can roast me in the comments. Now, there is method in this madness, okay? So I have got a scramble here, and going off what I said just moments ago, splitting it into two different steps, we're gonna start by looking at this scramble and finding our cross pieces, and we're gonna plan our cross, okay? So what I would do for this cross is something a little bit like this. I'm gonna grab this cube here so that I can do my cross, and then go back to this cube so that you guys can see the +1 part of it. So my cross with blue here, orange here, green here, and red here would be to move green over to the left, to the right. Then I'd put blue into place, and then orange into place, and then put red into place with a wide R, U prime, wide R prime, and then a D prime, just like that. So now that I have planned my cross, going back to our pre-inspection stage, we need to find our first pair. We have two different options we can take. Option 1, already solved pair. Sometimes you will find a pair on your cube and you might be able to preserve it in your cross solution. If you have a pair, always try and preserve it unless it's just going to be too complicated. It's a little bit of a fine line figuring out what is too complicated and what's doable. But in short, if you think you're gonna get lost doing your cross in a very tricky way to preserve a pair, just ditch the pair and go with something else. The second option is we could just look for a corner. Because this particular scramble has an F2L pair, I'm going to choose option 1, which is preserve the pair. Now my cross solution was move the green over here. So I know that by doing that D move, this pair will come and rest back here. My L won't touch it, but then my B will lift it up and put it with the white up here and the edge here. So it's gonna be an upside down F2L pair in the back corner here. Then when I do my wide R, U prime, wide R prime, it's not gonna move. And then a D won't touch it. D prime. So I have now planned an entire cross with my first F2L pair right here. So I could shut my eyes and know how to solve cross and my first F2L pair Different scramble, but same techniques. We're gonna kick off this scramble by looking for our cross pieces. And then once we've found them, we're gonna plan our cross. So what I have planned for my cross is I'm going to put my green edge here, and red edge here, and I'm gonna do an R2, F2, then a D prime, R prime, D. Once I've planned my cross, I now need to either look for a preserved pair, which, well, there's no pair on the cube. And because of that, I'm now going to find a corner that doesn't really move. And this corner, well, that's gonna move quite a lot. This corner, it could work, but basically the corner that I've spotted immediately, which is easiest to track, is this blue, red, white corner. And the reason why I say this is the easiest is because I know that my U prime to put green with green and red with red is going to put it back here. And then I'm only doing R, F, D moves, and that won't touch it. So this blue, red is going to be here with white facing top. So now that I found my corner, I need to look for the corresponding edge that would make this an F2L pair. And that's down here. And I know that by doing a U prime, that's not going to touch it. My R2 to put green into place won't touch it. Then my F2 will put this up top with red facing the top. And then a D prime, R prime, D to put orange into place. That means this isn't going to be touched. So I have finished predicting that this corner is going to be here with white facing top. And then this edge is going to have red facing the top, meaning my first F2L pair is going to look like this. When we go ahead and do this cross here, there's the U prime putting the edge there. R2, F2, D prime, R prime, D. Boom, there is our first F2L pair, which we can solve pretty quickly. So we are now 2 examples into this video, and I hope that you are starting to get a little bit of an idea of what we do to do Cross+1. We first plan our cross, then we need to look for a corner or a pair. And once we find either of that, we then figure out what our first F2L pair will be. Okay. Here is our third scramble, and we're going to start off by finding our cross pieces, planning our cross, and then after we've got a cross planned, we're going to look for a corner or a preserved pair. And there's no pair on the cube, meaning we're going to be looking for a corner. Now, this cross just so happens to be ridiculously easy, which I'm personally a huge fan of, because it's made for a very easy first pair. Now, what I'm going to do for my cross, grabbing my trusty cube here so I can demonstrate to you guys what I've planned, is I'm going to do with my cross pieces here, 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 and here. I'm going to do a D, R prime, which solves blue into position, D2, R, and then I'm going to do a D prime like that, and that will solve the cross. Now, going to the planning stage for our first F2L pair with this cross. Here's what I noticed straight away. These two are together, which makes them incredibly easy to track. So I know that when I do my D, it's not going to touch them. When I put blue into place, they're going to come down so that they're resting up here like that. But then when I do my D2R to put my green into place, it's going to put them right back here where they started. So I have planned that when I do my cross and finish it and have my cross solved, my first pair is going to be right there. So let's go ahead and do that cross. Put blue into place, D2, put green into place, and voila. This scramble also just so happens to give me this pair here. I probably would have seen that in the heat of a solve, so I'd rotate and put it in the back like that, and then promptly put this pair into the back like that. From there, well, this isn't exactly that kind of video with walkthrough example solves, so I'll leave it there. Are you feeling lost? Don't worry, I'm going to recap on everything that we've covered in this video so far. So starting off with breaking our Cross+1 into 2 steps, we have the cross, plan a cross, then +1. Figure out what your first F2L pair is going to be. To figure that part out, we either look for a F2L pair or just a corner. That particular corner We want to find a corner that's going to end up in the top layer after we finish our cross. That is going to be the best pair that we can look for. From there, we find our edge, track it and figure out where it's going to end up, and then plan how we can solve our first F2L pair from that. Kinda heady, isn't it? So the scrambles that I've been showing you so far have been pretty straightforward for planning our first F2L pair. But what happens if we get a scramble like this one, where our cross is gonna be kinda long? How do we plan our first pair? Well, going back to the method that I taught you guys, which is look for a pair or look for a corner, we just do the exact same thing, okay? So this particular cross, we're gonna do an R prime like this and put green into position down there like that. Then do an R prime, which puts blue into position up here. Then we're gonna do a D to solve green and red, and then put our orange into place by putting blue down to here, moving orange on top, and then an R prime F to finish it up. Now, that's a kind of long cross. How do I look ahead through all of that to find a first pair? Well, we're gonna start by finding a corner. Let's try this green-red corner. I know that by doing my R prime and then my B prime and then my R prime, that it is not going to touch this corner. But then when I go to solve my orange by doing an R prime, U prime, R prime F, this corner's got to be moved here, then down here. So that's not really ideal. We don't really want a corner that's going to end down in the bottom slot. When we look for a corner, we always want to look for a corner that's going to end up in the top layer. So this corner won't work. We're now going to pick a different corner. Let's try this green one, this green orange corner. So my R prime, B prime, R prime, that's gonna move it there, then up there. Oh, and then when I go to solve my blue and orange, this green corner is going to end up in the back right slot. That's not great either. So new corner. This blue-orange corner. This doesn't look promising, but let me show you something interesting. This corner, when we do our R prime, B prime, R prime, it's gonna go down here, then here, meaning that when we go to solve our orange, it's actually gonna end up top here. And here's the edge, so that makes it a pretty easy first pair. So let's go ahead and do that cross. Just like that. So when you get a particularly difficult scramble, give yourself as much pre-inspection as you want and just track each individual corner until you find one that works for you. It is pretty rare that you'll get a cross case that will result in you with all 4 of your corners in the bottom layer. In this particular case, we had this blue-red one in the back as well, but I didn't get around to tracking that. Probably would be the better first pair though, because it's a nice back slot. Oh, and we get a free pair, and another free pair, and almost another free pair. What was that? Cross+1 might seem very, very daunting when you're starting to learn it. Trust me guys, I was there. I sat down and I started a timer just to see how long it would take me to plan my cross and my first F2L pair, and it took me over 5 minutes. Over 5 minutes to find my first F2L pair and a cross solution. I was pretty disheartened, but here's what all the top cubers said. Practice, practice, practice. To learn Cross+1, the best way that you can is once you have learnt the basics of Cross+1, which is what I've shown you so far in this video, you need to then give yourself a random hand scramble. And once you've done that, find your cross solution and then take as long as you need to find your first F2L pair. You've just got to do it over and over and over. Once you've done this, just re-scramble your cube, find your cross pieces, then figure out how you're going to solve your cross, and then you've got to look for your first pair, and I found mine. And just keep doing that over and over and over. And by just practicing it over and over and over, you'll get to a point where you'll find your cross solution and then immediately you'll spot what you could use for your first F2L pair. And trust me, it works. It really, really works. If you are looking to break the sub 12 or the sub 10 barrier even, this is an essential tool to have in that fight against the clock. I tried not to give you guys too much of an information overload. There is one point that I will just quickly mention, and that's earlier in the video, I said look for a corner that will end up in the top layer, and that it's rare for all 4 of them to not be in the top layer. If you ever get a case where all 4 corners aren't in the top layer, you've got 2 more options. You can either go for an X cross, or you can add in an extra move while you're solving a cross to take one of those corners out of the bottom layer and keep it in the top layer. But that is something that I can address in another video. And the X cross, if you would like me to make a video specifically about how to do X crosses, comment below and let me know, and I will happily make that video. Feel free to let me know if you've got any questions or anything in the comments, because I'm more than happy to help. So there you have it, guys. That is Cross+1. I hope that this video helped you. I have a video on how to do advanced cross coming soon, because what's the point of knowing how to do Cross+1 if you just get stuck on doing the cross? So keep an eye out for that video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.